Well, I'm just saying, Carmen, I didn't even have fun. I don't have. I just let it. I got no hair to protect me. All right. Well, welcome, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started with the meeting. I know we have quite a bit on our agenda today, and I think the agenda must have scared a couple of our commissioners off because they decided not to attend, so they're missing out. So with that, I will take on our first order of business, which is the approval of the minutes. I know we've all had a chance to sort of take a look at them, so if there aren't any changes or edits or suggestions, I'd ask for a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good. Minutes have been approved. Next order of business is a presentation by the Kansas City Design Center regarding the downtown green space vision plan. So.
Yes, Jimmy and Steve. Jimmy is going to introduce this and introduce our guest and tell us about the plan.
Starting last May in 2011, Parks Department entered into an agreement with the Kansas City Design Center to develop a downtown green space vision plan. The students worked all of last summer, during this fall, and then this spring. And what they're going to do today is they're going to present their findings for 3 different green spaces. Those spaces include the Beardsley Road corridor, a network of parks within the urban core, and then Washington Square Park. I'm going to introduce you to Vladimir and Doug Stockman. They're both with the Kansas City Design Center, and I'll have them introduce the students.
Just real briefly to put this into context for those of you who are not familiar with it, I chair the Downtown Council's Green Space Committee, and for years we had been inventorying our parks and private spaces downtown, and really desired an approach to envision what could be potentially a reinvigoration of our parks and civic spaces downtown. And so we made a PIAC request about 2 years ago to fund a study, and through that little adventure we have arrived at the point where the Kansas City Design Center took on the charge for the committee, and we've been working hand in hand with them along with Parks and Rec and a multitude of stakeholders throughout the downtown area. And today we'd like to present a lot of the hard work that's happened over the course of a year.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Good day. My name is Vladimir Kristich. I'm professor and director of Kansas City Design Center, and I'd like to introduce the students former students. They graduated, but are still with us in Kansas City Design Center. Part of our charge is not only to produce the project, but also to do follow-up publication in the form of a book that is going to be delivered by the end of the summer, which is part and parcel of the project, and it's part of the original agreement. I would just like to add to that one more thing, and that is that we greatly appreciate actually the support of Parks and Rec in taking this endeavor on. We are an academic institution which represents both KU and K-State in the city. We're trying to develop an urban design center which centers on collaboration with the community and providing service learning opportunities for students. And this is a great hand extended to us to continue to build our capacity in collaboration with the city and hopefully bring some contribution to the table about envisioning future of Kansas City. And with that, I'd like to introduce 2 of my former students, Tiffany Cartwright and Lauren Kelly, who will be doing the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This year, the students of the Kansas City Design Center completed a comprehensive vision plan for the green and civic space of downtown Kansas City in collaboration with the Downtown Council, the Green Space Committee, and Kansas City Parks and Rec. The goal of our project was to develop a system of green and civic spaces that would enhance the quality of the urban environment and better serve the idea of the city. Throughout the analysis and design stages of this process, it was our intention to align with the 5 goals of the Greater Downtown Area Plan and to take into consideration the proposed and ongoing projects within the downtown and to connect to these when possible. We conducted research and design in order to evaluate the current conditions and create a comprehensive plan. In 1893, George Kessler created a plan for the parks and boulevards of Kansas City to be a connected system of green space based on the city's most dramatic topography. Due to the introduction of the interstate system, Kessler's park system has become fragmented and no longer provides an order to the city. Extensive park surveys and an analysis of the current green and civic space in the greater downtown area and the various elements that affect it illustrate that the current park spaces are not well integrated into the order of the city in a way in which they are contributing to the quality and livability of the urban environment. There exists a lack of civic space, but a substantial amount of unsuccessful parkland which is underprogrammed, outdated, and currently presents a maintenance burden to the city. We also found that there is a lack of green space within the downtown, but an abundance of surface parking and vacant lots. These lots create gaps in the urban fabric and disrupt the cohesive feel of the city. By examining the current situation of the parks and civic space in Kansas City, we were able to identify how the parks are currently serving and not serving the people living and working downtown. After completing our analysis of the existing conditions, we proposed a 3-layered system of anchor parks, corridors, and infill parks. Anchor parks embody the identity of Kansas City. Corridors are a network of green multimodal transportation routes which act as linear public space. Infill parks are temporary hybrid parks which link the anchor parks and corridors while improving the livability, walkability, and microclimate of downtown. Anchor parks are designed to be iconic parks that embody the identity of Kansas City. They have permanence and the potential to connect the city to its place through its history, topography, and natural features. These parks primarily serve the city, but can also function as neighborhood parks or serve the region as a whole. Examples of these parks include West Terrace Park, Penn Valley Park, and Washington Square Park. Out of the 7 anchor parks established in the comprehensive plan, Washington Square Park and the Rail Park were selected to be developed in further detail. Currently, the rail lines create a major separation between Washington Square Park and the rest of the downtown. The majority of the proposed site is currently underutilized surface parking lots. As it now exists, Washington Square Park lacks order, does not relate to its surroundings, and is not well used. Washington Square Park has the potential to establish the southern edge of downtown, which currently exists as a major division. By extending Washington Square Park across the rail lines and capitalizing on the proposed streetcar and Grand Boulevard projects, Washington Square Park will serve as an urban node and act to reconnect Crown Center to the crossroads and the Loop. The northern half of Washington Square Park will have a strong connection with the downtown, while the civic southern portion flows into the existing public space. While redefining Washington Square Park will create a significant green and civic space for the entire downtown, the Rail Park will serve as more of a local park for Crossroads residents. The Rail Park will also repurpose surface parking to better serve the urban environment and provide water management strategies to help mitigate the stress on the city's sewer system. The Rail Park will capitalize on the 20th Street plan by Eldorado, while Washington Square Park will serve as a transportation hub and capitalize on BNIM's Grand Boulevard proposal, the streetcar project, and connect to the Amtrak station. Both parks will connect to the existing and proposed trails within the downtown and help to create a more solid system. By providing direct pedestrian-only routes, Washington Square and the Rail Park will improve the walkability of the entire downtown area. The master plan includes the completed Washington Square Park with extension, the Walnut Street Plaza, and the infrastructural rail park. By redesigning Washington Square Park, we aim to create a meaningful and useful green and civic space which would provide public amenities and hold an identity as a place. The new space would relate visually and functionally to Crown Center Plaza, Union Station, and the Crossroads, therefore integrating the entire downtown. In Phase 1, the beginning of the promenade would be created, which aligns with one of the most powerful views of the downtown, looking north down Walnut. Infill development containing public uses would establish an edge along Grand Boulevard. Seating, overhead structures, and an interactive feature would be placed on the southeast corner of the site. The current railing on the north edge of the site would be replaced by a sculpted lip which would enhance views out of the park. A pavilion located adjacent to the streetcar terminus would provide seating and cover a building containing the bike share hub and casual dining. Extending Washington Square Park as Phase 2 would create a significant public space unmatched by anything that exists in Kansas City currently. Phase 2 would begin by capping of the surface parking lot to the north of the current Washington Square Park in order to create a 3-level parking garage and extend Washington Square. Along the front of the third level of the parking garage, a pedestrian link would extend to the west and connect to Union Station. A flexible grass lawn amphitheater would serve as the focal point of the park and provide retail storefront below. Additional mixed-use development, it would extend the east edge of the site and provide eyes on the park. The promenade would be extended over the rail lines and end as a grand stair in the pedestrian-only plaza at the Walnut terminus, providing a flexible space and connecting the two parks to one another in the downtown. Phase 3 would include the implementation of the infrastructural rail park, which focuses more on the adjacent context and the Crossroads residents. The rail park features a hardscaped linear plaza and a narrower wooden boardwalk surrounded by native plantings to offer users paths of various ambiances. The plazas located on each end of the park, each end of the rail park would provide gathering spaces and act as nodes connecting to surrounding activities. Phase 3 also includes the construction of residential, retail, and commercial development along the north edge of the rail park. During an average rail park rainfall event, the rail park site receives 521,000 gallons of rainfall. As surface parking, this rainfall currently ends up as runoff in the city's sewer system. By implementing water management strategies such as bioswales, forebays, rain gardens, and detention basins, the rail park could capture this water, cleanse it, and allow it to be used. Along the west wing of the rail park, there would be an interactive stone aquifer leading to a child-friendly plaza. Capitalizing on the existing BNIM pedestrian bridge would complete the circulation route and strengthen the park's relationship to Union Station. The rail park would retain the industrial feel of the area, which makes the site so unique. This is how the design would look once all three phases are completed. Corridors are linear civic spaces that facilitate pedestrian and non-motorized transportation on existing streets while providing adjacent civic and park spaces to the surrounding community. A network of corridors were formed within the downtown area to create much-needed pedestrian and cyclist-friendly circulation. The network of corridors connects already established district nodes through pedestrian-friendly routes. Currently, the trails within the downtown provide passive recreational transportation, but not active transportation. Active transportation is using non-motorized forms of transportation during daily activities such as commuting by bike. By improving pedestrian circulation within the downtown, the barriers created by the current highway system would be lessened and residents would be able to access other districts more easily. The Riverfront Heritage Trail, shown in blue, shows a recreational trail, while the proposed Beardsley Road in orange shows a commuter route, which is much more direct. The study route begins at West Penway Street, tying into Eldorado's proposal. Traveling along Beardsley Road, it continues onto 3rd Street, once in the River Market, and becomes Northeast Industrial Trafficway in Columbus Park, until intersecting Front Street at Berkeley Riverfront Park. This route connects Westside residents with the River Market area and Columbus Park, then reaches Berkeley Riverfront and ties into the redevelopment project in Berkeley Park. Corridors utilize existing public space such as right-of-ways and parkland to add supporting spaces to the circulation route and add amenities to the surrounding context. The diagram on the left shows how the Beardsley 3rd Street ties into a larger network of corridors and existing trail systems while providing support spaces along the way. The diagram to the right shows how the route connects multiple districts together while enabling connection points to the city. To show a few support spaces, we begin looking at Jarboe Park as it currently exists. In Jarboe Park, a butterfly garden, trailhead, recreational field, and 2 pavilions would be provided for the neighborhood and adjacent school. 12th Street's Viaduct mid-deck will remain with enhancement, but will be solely non-motorized transportation. A bridge will be built into the cliff, providing multiple platforms for events and multi-purpose amphitheater-style seating over Beardsley Road. In addition, the event space would be a connection point between the West Bottoms, the Loop, Mulkey Park, and West Side. Another support space is River Bluff Park. This design would improve the existing outlook areas and provide native plantings, which would help to lower maintenance costs. City Market Park would also be redesigned to create a more functional space for the River Market area. The southern portion would become an urban agriculture area for residents, while the northern portion would be a plaza for city market visitors to eat or rest. At the intersection of 3rd and Grand, the right-of-way space will be redesigned to become a transportation node for the streetcar, bus stops, and bike share. The intersection would be more defined, the corners would serve as civic spaces, and a cafe would be located in the northeastern corner. The last support space we will look at is the right-of-way space surrounding Highway 9 and a current for-sale lot. The new design spaces would provide the community with a skate park, dog park, bike kiosk, and urban agriculture area. By rethinking the use of parking lots, hybrid infill parks and public spaces can be created, which will provide residents and employees of downtown with green spaces that are currently lacking. These infill spaces would improve the walkability and livability of downtown while providing a public amenity that enhances the environmental quality of downtown through microclimate changing design strategies. These spaces have catalytic power to encourage development and promote public-private partnerships. By overlaying the underutilized surface parking lots with adjacent urban use populations, we were able to identify the lots with the best proximity to become usable public spaces. These maps revealed a disproportionate ratio of high-density live-work population to current green space and an abundance of underutilized surface parking and vacant lots. These lots can be redesigned to form a network of public spaces that better serve the downtown. Also overlaying a 5-minute walking grid ensured an even dispersal of green space. Out of the 25 network spaces included in the comprehensive vision plan, 3 sites were selected for further development and design: 9th and Wyandotte, 10th and Cherry, and 17th and Grand. Each site selected presented different design challenges and conditions that influenced the design's program. For each infill park, a series of view studies looking into the site and out of the site were conducted, as well as a series of sun studies, which analyzed how the microclimate of each site needs to be manipulated. The same studies were completed with the proposed design model to show how the design would improve the microclimate. The design for 17th and Grand aims to improve the current space until it is eventually developed. As a multi-purpose urban space, the site will serve as a public amenity when it is not being used for parking. Green structures, bioswales, and surface treatments will prevent the site from feeling like a parking lot. Sustainable designs and strategies applied to 17th and Grand include elevated green wall structures, tree canopies, solar panels, and bioswales. A canopy structure was also applied to Grand Boulevard to integrate the site into BNIM's proposed plan. As with all infill spaces, this site would be multifunctional and could hold several public events, such as festivals, outdoor movies, and art fairs. The kit of parts includes sustainable strategies and programmatic elements which act to improve the microclimate of each site and unite all of the spaces throughout the downtown. Solar chimneys are one element from the kit of parts. These elevated structures outline pedestrian walkways while cooling the environment through shading and heat removal. They act as billboards to the city and include solar panels which make them site self-sustaining. Water management is currently a major issue on the 17th and Grand site. To reduce the amount of runoff, a series of mini bioswales would be implemented at strategic locations on the site, with a large bioswale at the lowest point. Detention tanks would then cleanse this runoff and allow it to be used on the site for irrigation. This is an overall view of the site approaching from Grand Boulevard. This site can be configured to allow for multiple uses, including additional temporary canopies for a variety of events. Looking down the canopy structure located on Grand Boulevard, you can see how the canopy and elevated green walls allow both cars and pedestrians to comfortably inhabit the space. Together, these 3 layers of anchor parks, corridors, and infill parks would create a comprehensive plan that would improve the livability and urban environment of the greater downtown area of Kansas City.
Jim, you want to go ahead and get the lights on, or they get the lights on that side?
The students are here to answer any kind of questions you
Sure.
have.
Well, first of all, tremendous job on
very
your
well done.
part.
Thank you very much.
I almost feel bad that I'm glad that we had you here today, but it's almost as if it doesn't do justice to sort of probably get all of our questions out, and there's probably a lot more detail that you all wanted to sort of get into that you probably couldn't get into, and I appreciate you reading as fast as you could. And, but I think you had everybody in this room pretty captivated by the ideas that you all sort of presented,
you.
everything from Washington Park to the infills to, you know, to even the work that you were sort of trying to do underneath the 12th Street Viaduct. I mean, you know that well. So tremendous ideas on your part, and congratulations to
Thank
the
you.
job well done. I think at some point we would probably want to engage further discussions with you outside of such a formal sort of setting. But thank you for taking the time. I don't know if either of my fellow commissioners had any comments or questions at this time of you. Anything you want to?
No, I think I'd take a little time to digest it. It's a little overwhelming, but, you know, I love the idea. And anything that can help eliminate heat island, which this will also have that effect, would be beneficial to everybody. So, like I say, I will take some time and evaluate this a little better. I'm sure we'll, at a later date, have more questions.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to the next order of business, it's resolution number 29845.
Yes, Commissioners, this is consideration and hopefully approval of the Ann Garney Park Master Plan. I'm going to turn it over to Steve Abbott, who's going to introduce and get us on the issue.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Afternoon.
Today we have Trent Danzel and Jonathan Hofflander with Olson Associates, which is a multidisciplinary engineering land planning firm, and they have prepared a master plan for Ann Garney Park. I'd also like to note that Ann Garney has joined us today, and there she is back there.
Commissioner, welcome.
So, guys.
Commissioners. You know, one thought I had, since we have two other fellow commissioners here, we have two seats up here. You're more than welcome.
That's where the bench will come up.
There you go.
Mr. Chair, could you just ask them to turn the air conditioner on?
Yeah, not a problem. If it's not on already, we'll make sure to get it on.
I'm Jonathan Hofflander with Olson Associates, and we're here to talk about the update to the master plan to Ann Garney Park. As you know, there's an original master plan done for this park in 1999. Since then, none of those proposed improvements have been developed at the site. Generally, the park is located at 108th Street, future Shoal Creek Parkway extension, and Woodland, future Maple Woods extension on the east here. Since 1999, the community surrounding this park and this site has grown and changed significantly, and with that, the needs of the local residents have changed as well, and then not to mention local and national park trends as well. So with all of that in mind, we have conducted a couple public meetings to gauge stakeholders' interests and get their feedback and incorporate that into the updates to the master plan. We've also met with Staley High School, which is in North Kansas City School District. Staley High School sits just off to the east over here. Newmark Middle School is to the south and west. Being that we have two schools very close to this park, we thought it'd be great if we could get some involvement with them to see if there's aspects of the park that we could share with the school district as well. We also met with the Northland Chamber and presented the park and updates to the master plan to them, and they recommended approval for that as well. So with that, Trent Danzel will walk you through the updates to the plan.
Thanks. Again, my name is Trent Danzel. I'm also with Olson Associates. So as Jonathan mentioned, we held a couple information gathering sessions to garner information from the public users of the park, and we put this together in 4 phases to kind of take the park from what it is now, just essentially an undeveloped 100-acre plot of grassy land, to the final build-out, which is Phase 4. We're doing this in 4 phases. We'll just start with Phase 1, which reflects, again, information garnered from the public. It also coincides conveniently with some of the national trends for parks of this size and use. Phase 1, as you can see, is mostly trails, almost entirely trails. And what we're showing here is an aggregate trail section to help mitigate cost in Phase 1 and allow for easier improvements of the phase of the trails as we move through the phases. In addition to the trails, there's some very limited landscaping. I might mention that we also worked with Travis Kiefer on this, and he provided us a lot of resources, one of which was the Trails KC plan. So we're showing connections to the neighborhood area and a couple other trails, specifically this here along Woodland, which is the only concrete section in Phase 1. So we'll move to Phase 2 here, which basically represents an upgrade of Phase 1. There are a few more trails in the northwest section, kind of a boardwalk nature area that would be surrounded with probably some bioswales, some natural features to kind of maintain the native feel of the park. But we're improving on the Phase 1 trail system by taking it from aggregate to a more permanent paved section. There's been some discussion on that, but basically Phase 2 is improving on the Phase 1 trail system and also offering some more extensive landscaping throughout the trail system, both plants and benches and trash receptacles and that sort of thing. On to Phase 3, which is kind of building on the base of the trail system for the passive use park by adding some still passive use, but passive/active, I'll say. We've got some soccer and football fields here in the middle of the park, grass, kind of nothing that would support a big tournament, but something that neighborhoods could get out and utilize. Same is true of the baseball, softball field that's shown just to the south of it. On either side and to the south, we're showing large open spaces that are quite extensive, but we would keep landscaping out of that, just kind of provide open spaces to keep in line with the passive use of the park. We are showing a playground in Phase 3 here in the middle there around the playground area and fields, along with a parking lot and a motorist connection from Woodland Road down south to the future Shoal Creek Parkway extension, which is going to occur on the south side of the park. So from that, we go to Phase 4, which is the full build-out of the park. The additions of Phase 4 are a fishing pond in the southeast side that is flanked on either side by gardens. One is a low-maintenance garden. One is a more formal garden, like something you might find at Luce Park. And probably the crown jewel of Phase 4 and of perhaps the park entirely is found in the northeast corner. It's a community center, 100,000 square foot community center. We'll mention that in working with Mr. Kiefer and some of the past studies that were made available to us in developing this master plan, we learned that Anne Garney Park was one of 3, I believe, parks in the Northland that were in the past targeted for possible siting of a community center. Development of the 2 other parks from that time to today has occurred in such a way that they're no longer candidates realistically for a community center, which is why we're showing it here. Of course, all of the infrastructure to support the community center would come along with it in Phase 4, including parking lots. We've got a couple fountains and some other things. But we'll also say that the community center hasn't been fully planned as part of this master plan, similar to what we did working with the public, getting information on what they would kind of expect and would like to see in the community center. We would suggest something like that occurs when Phase 4, funding for Phase 4 becomes available. But those are brief outlines of each of the 4 phases that comprise the updated master plan for Anne Garney Park. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to address them.
Any questions?
Well, I will say, I saw the presentation at the Northland Chamber, and I had seen the original 1990s plan, and I had been enamored with that, but as this is developed, it really fits the need of the area and those established neighborhoods that don't have a facility. The only question I have, are there some tentative pricing for the various phases?
Yes, we did generate pricing for each of the 4 phases. I can run through those if you like. Phase 1, which was just the brief, or not brief, but it was the trail system, aggregate cross-section, we estimated to be around $270,000. Phase 2, which is taking the Phase 1 trails and upgrading them to a permanent paved surface and limited landscaping, we estimated to be around 1.1 million. 1.1 million. Phase 3, which included the athletic fields and open grassy spaces along with the play area, was estimated to be just under 600,000. And Phase 4, including the pond, the 2 gardens, the community center, and all of the infrastructure, was estimated in today's dollars around $33.5 million.
Most of phase 4's cost coming from the community center.
Right.
And looking at the cost from phase 3 to phase 2 next, those costs are assuming everything in phase 2 is constructed at that point.
Yeah, that's a good point. As Jonathan just mentioned, the pricing is based on the assumption that it will be built in the linear fashion that was presented here in the 4 phases. As funding becomes available, I mean, you could pick and choose pieces, but this is kind of the logical development that we saw.
I'd ask if our fellow commissioner would like to say any words. I know. You might come.
I would just like to thank the park board and the park staff for the work they did on this, as well as Jonathan and Trent and Olson Associates. I think they did a great job, and I'm real happy with the results. So I think it's going to be good for the neighborhood and the area, the community.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you both. We really appreciate it. I'm moving forward to the next order of business resolution. Oh, what's that? Do you have any other? Oh, wait, we need to approve the recommendation. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Oh, I was thinking that was information. So there's a recommendation, obviously, for us to approve the updated master plan for Ann Garney Park. Is there a motion to accept the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motion seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. The resolution passes. Now, moving forward on to the next order of business, resolution number 29846.
Okay, Commissioner, I just want to make sure everybody was aware that this work that was done by Olson was done pro bono.
Wow.
And we appreciate your work on this. I mean, this is obviously quality professional work. It would have cost us like money to have this done if we would have hired you, right? So, exactly. But I appreciate Darren Hennon from your firm. He and I had a conversation about this about a year ago, and I know they want to do a pro bono project, community service project. So we want to thank you for your volunteer and your time on this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I believe the next order of business is related to Matty Rhodes and the Mayor's Night Kicks program.
Yeah. Anybody here from Matty Rhodes?
And we got a couple guys here from that.
I haven't melted. Well, thank you, President Chowdhury, members of the Park Board of Commissioners, Director McHenry, John Fierro, here in my capacity as, first of all, proud alumni of the Parks Board. Certainly understand all that is entailed, and it was exciting to see the plan that was presented. I mean, I miss all the different projects that this Park Board has to be involved with, and I commend you guys for all that you do, and especially your great work on getting the revenue issue resolved, and certainly know that your friends at Matty Rhodes Center and in the community are all behind the initiative to get the Park Department more money. So thank you for having me, and I
Well, yeah.
I jumped into front of Mr. Bolin here, I apologize.
Wow, and I would just say, and I'd just like to sort of say, and we appreciate that, and you know what, and to the extent that we do get the revenue issue resolved, we'll be happy to turn on the AC even higher next year.
Thank you.
Here, so.
Well, I told him that when we went outside, that was contingent upon the air conditioning.
Exactly,
Whether
that's
it's
what it is.
passed.
It is, thank you.
But as much as, and I apologize, as much as Director McHenry would introduce the subject matter, and I would just kind of take it from there, I would like to introduce, for those that don't know, former Commissioner, once a commissioner, always a commissioner, John Fierro, and Nick Garcia is here somewhere as well, representing Mattie Rhodes. But what we're asking and recommending for approval today is for the Mattie Rhodes Center to be approved to have a concessions and use agreement with the 9th and Van Brunt site,
Yes.
soon to be called something else, to do several things. One is to conduct the Mayor's Night Kicks program for this summer, and then to facilitate other programs, clinics, and tournaments at that site. A couple of the good things about what Mattie Rhodes Center looks to do is to maintain that area, both the artificial turf and the natural turf, to the specifications that need to be maintained, and again, provide the services of the Night Kicks program. Once the Night Kicks program is over, we are recommended that they, not unlike other users of our parks facilities, look at running those leagues, running those tournaments. The normal cost or the normal fee is $330 for the fall, and then $25 per hour for lights at that facility, and any other services that they can do while they're there. That's picking up trash and monitoring the location. So with that said, staff recommends approving the facility use with concessions agreement with Mattie Rhodes for the 9th and Van Brunt site. And if there's any comments
Sure.
or additional.
Yeah.
I would like to make a few more comments and then introduce Nick Garcia, who has a PowerPoint slide. Again, thank you, Commissioners, Chairman Chowdan. You know, if you haven't seen 9th and Van Brunt, you need to get over there. Commissioner Bryant saw it, and not unlike any other visitor that we take over there, I think her expression was, wow. And I said, you know, this is your park. It is a great development for that neighborhood. I think once it gets online and gets programmed, it's going to serve as a good example of how Parks and Recreation can serve as a positive economic development tool. So I firmly believe that in the Northeast area, we're going to see an increased number of outside visitors coming into the community, participating in this development. Also, I anticipate increased spending at the local establishments. You know, the Northeast area is probably one of the most multicultural parts of our city, and we need to embrace that and not shun people away. So this park is going to definitely be a certain welcome mat to bring people in to spend money. Also, we see that as an opportunity to increase property values and encourage others to develop. Mattie Rhodes Center made a commitment to this community about 8 years ago when we purchased a building north of that particular park and put down some permanent roots. So certainly there's a lot of need, but it starts with an investment. And then finally, we see the park providing us with the tool to address health and community issues, and that's where I'll have Nick speak to that. But I really want to speak to Nick Garcia. Nick is a great example of a volunteer. Nick and I met over 10 years ago, but has really committed himself for the last 2 years of giving back to the community. And this is somebody who's a native of Dallas. So I think at some point we need to maybe give him a new birth certificate that states that he's actually from Kansas City, Missouri. But Nick has contributed over 400 volunteer hours in the last 2 years of organizing a program that he's about to speak to. So thank you again for your support. I appreciate your support of Nick and the work of Mattie Rhodes Center, and certainly as we go forward, we will continue to work with the Park Board and all others in leveraging funds and partnering with other organizations. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce Nick Garcia.
Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. As John said, being a former professional player, for me, the greatest joy I have is sharing the game that has taught me a lot of things. Traveling the world, hanging out with a bunch of different cultures, and experiencing life without the soccer ball has been great for me. So my biggest passion right now outside of my family is our Northeast Sports Alliance, which is NISA for short. And I don't know if I can get a little bit of help over there on the keyboard. But as you see, soccer is our hook. And what we do is cloaked because kids just want to play. But it's all about health and wellness for us. When my wife and I and Raul Cobos sat down with John Fierro here a few years back at towards the end of my career, I had asked John what we could do to help the community, what we can do to help the kids. My wife, being a dentist, had the idea of us going in, and me being the horse and pony show, and saying, hey, you know what, kids, let's play soccer. We'll get you hooked, and then my wife can do her dental work. So that's how we originally got started. Next slide, please. And, with that, Maddie Rhodes embraced me and has helped me to start this program because really, again, it is about the kids. G3 Inc. is my company. I formed this company to help facilitate the different relationships between for-profit and nonprofit entities, things that nonprofits can't do, things that they can help the community with, and vice versa. And that for me has been a growing experience. And getting on with our history here with John, getting back to the kids and how we started, it was about dentistry. It was about checking to see if kids got new toothbrushes. It was about checking to see if they got, their teeth flossed, how often they went to the dentist. Scary enough, a lot of things with all of us show up in the mouth first. You can tell sexual abuse in females. You can tell heart disease. There's all kinds of other ailments that show up in the mouth first because it is the gateway to the body. And we know that if we can get to these kids early on, whether it's about dental screenings, vision screenings, diabetes, other issues, the likelihood of us changing them and helping to mold them as young adults and as grown adults is definitely an outlook that we want to try and reach. We were able to get a $10,000 U.S. soccer grant with Maddie Rhodes through the U.S. Soccer Foundation. That grant enabled us the first year to get all the equipment needed. We got some goals, we got some pennies, we got soccer balls, got some jerseys, got the paint for the field, we got a paint striper. Because early on we were there at Blue Valley Park, and for us, I know that the park department was unable to go out there and do some of the things that we would have liked to have had done, but it wasn't a big deal. The kids didn't know, so we had the pop-up goals, we painted, and it really was a community-based effort, and it still is today. We see a lot of parents wanting to help. We have quite a bit of spectators, as you can see our numbers here for the first season of our games. We almost had player for player the same amount of spectators come out, and as you will see here in the future numbers, or in this past season's numbers, we've had more parents, more grandparents, more just neighborhood people come out and watch our games, and I think that is a big thing for us. We originally started off with Maddie Rhodes, Boys and Girls Club, 2 units. Whatsoever Community Center. We just welcomed Don Bosco here this past year, and here at the end of May, we just welcomed the Somali Foundation. As you can see, we've kind of been a transient, league organization of sorts. We started off there at Blue Valley. We then were moved to Cruz Park because 9th and Van Brunt was not ready, and I kind of equate that to the kids seeing the bicycle at Christmas time underneath the tree, knowing that it's a day before Christmas. Christmas comes and we're not able to get on it. That was kind of what it was like seeing that 9th and Van Brunt was ready. But the kids, the parents were very receptive. They knew that patience was needed and that things would come, and they are on the horizon. We have partnered up not only with the nonprofit organizations, but we've also partnered up with some high schools, Northeast High School, Lincoln Prep, Shawnee Mission East, Pembroke Hill, and a whole host of different criteria. For example, we first looked to Shawnee Mission East because I have a strong connection with a lot of the soccer players over there to donate their donate their time for service hours. A lot of the kids in high school these days need the hours. We are purely volunteer driven. Myself, all the coaches, outside of the administration within Mattie Rhodes and the other nonprofits, I don't get paid. We might get some gas cards, some stipends for all of our coaches. We're having a dinner tomorrow at Minsky's for all of our high school kids to thank them. But they enjoy it. They have a passion for the game. So they help referee, they help coach, they help line. And again, we go to our high school kids to do some special things for us. And they've never said no. We've also had some consignment garage sale businesses donate upwards of 50 to 60 trash bags full of clothes. The kids help with those service hours. They help to bag the clothes. We then drop them off to all of our partners. So again, we don't have a budget because it's zero, and that's fine. And we make do with what we have. It takes a lot of organization, a lot of administration, but that's part of the reason why Raul Cobos, my co-partner, and I are involved in this because we have a passion for the game. We were in Washington, D.C. here about 2 or 3 months ago for the Urban Soccer Symposium. We met a lot of other groups and individuals here throughout the United States who are nonprofits, who do things in the inner city, New York City, Chicago. We actually ran into a group outside of Los Angeles that does a very, very similar project, similar to what we do. So we've been throwing some ideas and things back and forth. And it's really been good to see that there are other people out there with the similar problems in other parts of the country who probably have it a little bit worse. And quite frankly, we actually have it pretty good there since 9th and Van Brunt is in the near future. Some of the obstacles that we've had to face here are obviously a lack of gear. Like I mentioned, we've looked to our coaches and to our high school kids to help get us some gear from competitive clubs, some recreational clubs. They've procured that for us. We then turn it around, clean it up, and get it to our families at a very nominal cost. For example, we get a pair of $50 shoes. We resell it for $5. 100% of that money goes back into the programming. None of that goes for anything else because I truly believe that we've got to charge our kids something. Otherwise, there's no accountability. There's no responsibility for these things that we're helping to provide for them. And if they happen to lose it, even though it's $5 to a lot of people over there in the Northeast, it is a lot of money. And the kids realize that they've got to take care of their things. Some of the other issues we have are transportation. Mom and dad work, aunt and uncle work a few jobs, kids can't get there. On my wish list of things we could do, if we were able to maybe circumvent a bus route, if we were able to get a bus, if we were able to, find some additional funding to help the kids, not just at Mattie Rhodes, but all over the place get there, I truly believe that our numbers would increase. Some of our other issues that we've had is actually collecting the fees. We only charge $50 per year. Try and find another program, I don't care what sport it is, that charges that amount of money. We charge $20 for the fall, $20 for the spring, $10 in the winter, and that's typically about 14 to 15, maybe 16 weeks, and we struggle at that. What we've tried to do to offset some of those costs are go after grant money, look after some donations. Things have trickled in, but we believe that with 9th and Van Brunt coming online, we truly have a successful model where we can implement some adult programming to help offset those costs for the youth programming, because that's really what it's about. Back to the wellness. The wellness will be there. It is not just about soccer. When we do go to our games, we talk to the kids about proper hydration, proper eating. We're looking to team up with all kinds of different partners, health partners, to try and incorporate more health components. We've talked to Truman Medical Center. We've also talked to President Jean-Paul's brother Enrique, who's over at Swope Park, about getting some additional help because it takes a village, and it truly does. We are not an inclusive group. We are an exclusive group. We are inclusive. I apologize, and we want everyone to be out there and everyone to help. And anyone who is willing to help, I encourage. If anyone knows anyone, please throw them our way. Because it is, again, about the kids. Mattie Rhodes is the conveyor of this program because we do need a head to take charge for everyone. Matty Rhodes has done a great job to go after funding. Matty Rhodes will continue to go after public and private funding to make sure that if we do have a shortfall in some of the other programming, that we are able to keep things afloat. Is that it? You know, here is a picture of 9th and Van Brunt. This was, I think, the day after, you know, the turf was laid down. The mural there in the back is very indicative of the culture. You've got Asian, you've got Middle Eastern, North African, American, Chinese, Latin, and soccer is their uniting voice. Soccer is their passion. Soccer is the one thing that they are willing to put down everything else for on the weekends. And, you know, again, I've seen this throughout the world. I spent a couple months in Nigeria when I was 20 years old representing our country in the U20 World Championships. Hottest place I've ever been to in my life. John says this is hot in here. It's not that hot, John. That turf will be hot, but I guarantee you the kids will have a great time. They will have fun. You know, we are looking to an organization here in town called the Hip Hop Academy to possibly help us clean up that mural. We want to keep it intact, but if we can dress it up, clean it up a little bit, it'll look even that much better. And I am confident as soon as the lights are turned on, the goals are down, we will have a lot more people out there playing on a regular basis. You know, as John said, 9th and Van Brunt will be the new economic boom there to the northeast. I believe truly that, you know, there will be a lot of interest from outside organizations, soccer organizations, rugby, football, whatever, who want to come in and use this facility. Outside of Swope Park, where sporting trains, you know, our friends in Kansas are the only ones who actually have a top-rate facility like this. So I do believe that there is an economic drive that can definitely be facilitated here. And, you know, again, it is all about health and wellness. And as long as we can have the activities there to help us out, I think things will be great. All right?
Great. Thank you, Nick. Are there any questions of
Well,
John, any comments you'd like to?
Basically, Nick, you had said you put in 400 hours.
Yes.
It sounds like there's a tremendous number of volunteer hours. Do you have any idea what the volunteer hours have been in the last year?
Just this year, I know we're pushing close to 1,000. You know, because again, it's everything from administration to getting goals, getting water. Boys and Girls Club does have a transportation mode on occasion, so you know there are a lot of moving parts to it, and you know it's kind of tough at times to track those hours. But in my best estimation, it'd be about 1,000 hours thus far.
Thank you very much.
Other questions?
And just for the record, this will be the first year that the Mayor's Night Kicks program will not be hosted at the Swope Park facility, but here at 9th and Van Brunt. And we're certainly looking forward to Matty Rhodes and Nick to performing to the highest level
Yes.
in putting that program off. June the 15th, I believe, is when registration starts. June 29th is when the league starts. And we're looking forward to an exciting season at the 9th and Van Brunt site.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. And there's no doubt in my mind that the partnership between Matty Rhodes and Nick, the work you've been doing is going to be extremely successful for that area. We appreciate both of your efforts on this, and you know, my hat off to both of you guys and your organizations for doing this sort of
And I
work.
want to commend Mr. Boland, obviously, Mr. McHenry, Steve Lampone, and Tammy. Tammy has been the main person that Nick has been working with, and for those of you that don't know Nick, Nick's very thorough, and I'm sure Tammy can tell you the hundreds of emails of all of his questions, which are all good questions, just making sure that, you know, the fields are in the good shape that they need to be for the kids. But I wanted to recognize those individuals. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good. Resolution passes. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, we
Yes,
have
sir.
one gift we would like to make to the park board. As Nick shared about a year ago, the Matty Rhodes Center secured a grant from the U.S. Soccer Foundation for $10,000.
Okay.
And the way that worked was it was basically a line of credit, so there was no exchange of cash. And with that, we purchased a number of, you know, uniforms, et cetera, as Nick talked about, but we also purchased, he ordered these, some really nice soccer goals, and we want to donate those
Oh,
to
great.
the park department for this park, so I'll let him explain that, but
Great.
wanted to make that gift.
You know, the goals are paramount because when you have a facility like this, you need the goals. They are quite expensive. I've already gone around to the scrap metal yards and said, hey, you know what? If you see these goals show up, here's my card. Please call. But knock on wood, we haven't had any issues. We haven't had any graffiti, and there's been a huge wall back by the railroad tracks that's been up for quite some time. And again, the people respect it. I'm not really worried about the goals. And we're looking to get probably another 2 sets because even though there's the big turf field and 2 smaller grass fields, we can actually have 4 games going at once. So we're actually donating 2. My company's looking for another 2 to donate because, again, the more the merrier for everybody.
Thank you very much. That's fantastic. Yes, we accept that gift. We'll make sure to make note of that, too. The next order of business, resolution number 29847.
Yes, Commissioner, this is an agreement regarding the farmer's market at Ike Davis Park, which is located just north of City Hall. And this is the Public Health Service, Federal Department of Health and Human Services. We would recommend approval of this agreement. Denise Phillips, our contract administrator, has been working on this agreement. If you have any questions, she is here to answer those.
We also have representatives from the Public Health Service, Federal Public Health Service. Some of you may know the Farmers Market, one of the first to be done in a collaborative adventure at Isla Davis Park at the request of the Public Health Service. And Joyce, I've forgotten your last name.
Counselor.
We'll answer any questions or give you just a real short recap.
Okay. The farmers market has been going on now for about 3 years, and the purpose is to provide fresh fruits and vegetables to the employees working in the downtown area in order to promote healthier eating habits and also to address obesity and decrease the risk factors for, developing chronic diseases. So as you know, obesity is one of the second leading causes for preventable diseases, and there's over 60 million Americans are obese or overweight. So we want to address that by providing fresh fruits and vegetables. It has been very successful. People go down on their lunch hour and breaks and purchase the things at a very discounted price. We also like to thank you for your support in the past and hope that you will continue to support us in the future.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions? Lisa?
Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second. All right, motion seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good. Resolution passes. Resolution number 29848. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioners, this is a memorandum of understanding with Major League Baseball. I think as we're all aware, the All-Star Game will be here early part of July of this year, and part of getting the message around the city is to put some stencils out in some turf areas in the parks, and also to dye some of our fountains blue in commemoration of the All-Star Game. The MOU is before you today, and Heidi is here if you have any questions about what's all involved.
Okay. Any questions of Heidi? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is it seconded?
Second.
All right, motion seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good. Resolution passes. Resolution number 29849.
Yes, Commissioners, this is also an MOU. This is with the KC Metro Bike Club and our own Public Works Department to have the annual tour of the Fountains bike ride on Sunday, June 17th. Again, Heidi's here if you have any questions.
Any questions of Heidi in regards to the annual City of Fountains bicycle tour? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution number 29850.
Yes, Commissioners, this is a consideration of the master plan for the Big Blue Battlefield Park. Steve Abbott.
Good
will
afternoon,
explain all this to you.
Commissioners.
It is.
Afternoon.
Get this where I can see it and you can see it. Wait, Denham? Basically, back in the mid-'90s, the Monette Battle of Westport Fund acquired about 87 acres of property in the industrial area. This is 63rd Street, this is Lewis Road, this is a soccer complex, this is Hardesty, and this is the Pepsi plant. After they removed the buildings and remediated the site on the 87 acres, they deeded all that over to the Parks Department to what is known as now the Big Blue Battlefield Park. This master plan was developed with information provided by park staff and the Monette Battle of Westport individuals. The components of the plan include pedestrian trails, shown in the dotted lines here. The switchbacks indicate steep grades, so those will be ADA accessible. Also, battlefield site features, like a reenactment field. This is an open meadow here. A future trailhead and bus turnaround. The bus turnaround was put in there because they have guided and unguided auto tours. It's a 32-mile tour throughout the city that visits all the historic sites. Also, they have proposed battlefield interpretive markers in these big areas, triangles here. For example, this one would be a marker that would interpret the ford itself. So you can see how this pinch point in the Blue River is. That was the logical place for troops to cross the Big Blue River. It's a pretty interesting area down in here. This is known as Bloody Hill up in this area. They also have 3 historical markers. These 2 markers were built, I believe, in the 70s. This marker right here, which is just to the east of the water department, the Monette Fund received PIAC funding. They gave me the specifications of what they wanted, and this is what the marker looks like today. This is a full-size replica of a Napoleon 12-pounder, 1857 cannon. This was a fun project to work with because I really had to do all my research at home because I didn't want IT to go nuts when they saw the sites that I was visiting. The barrel itself is 1,200 pounds on this marker right here. It's made out of iron. The carriage or limber is marine grade steel, and it's 1,400 pounds. So all this is sitting on an 8-inch reinforced concrete steel pad. It's a static load, so we didn't want it to go anywhere. It's all bolted down. In 2002, the Westport Fund bought this piece of property right here. It's an 1.25 acres. It had a building on it. They cleaned the site, took the building away, and then deeded it to us as part of the Big Blue Battlefield Park. Recently, they just purchased this piece of ground right here in the darker green. It has a building on it. They do have title to it. They're doing fundraising right now to remediate the site, and then that will become part of the battlefield as well. The Monette Fund, Dan Smith, he gave a presentation on this on May 1st at a pre-board session. They're interested in this piece of ground right here. Now, there's a big warehouse on it full of junk. He is going to the Land Trust of Jackson County on the 27th, I believe, of June to ask to have that property donated to the Westport Fund. And once they do the remediation, clean the site, take the building down, then that could become part of the park. On another note, a few years back, we received a $500,000 transportation enhancement grant to buy the DuPont building, which sits right here. We had meetings with DuPont and said, we're assembling the money, we're making the funds available, hold off, we're going to get to you as soon as we can. In the meantime, that building sold to an individual who turned it into an electroplating business or whatever. So we kind of lost out on that one. Dan Smith, chairman of the board of the Monette Fund, went to this owner and made an offer, wasn't accepted, and it got real complicated from there. We would have to have done relocations, and that's something we really didn't want to get into right now. The day after the pre-board workshop, when Dan presented this, we went to the TE committee at Mark and pled our case to have this money, rather than lose it, have this money redirected to buy this piece of ground right here. Dan, we were successful in doing that, so I'm going to be returning to this board in a few weeks with a supplemental agreement from MoDOT. Then I'll go to City Council, and then we Dan can go ahead and purchase that property. We also have $166,000 in leverage match from PIAC. But that's basically it in a nutshell, if there's any questions.
Any questions at this time? Thank you again for going over this with us, and it's very helpful to refresh our memories on this. At this point, is there a recommendation to, or excuse me, a motion to approve the recommendation around the Big Blue Battlefield Park Master Plan?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is the motion seconded? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. Resolution passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution number 29851.
Yes, Commissioner, this is a change order with Mega Industries for the trails along Brush Creek. Again, this is a STP project, also matched with some PIAC funds. Project started out a couple years ago, and this is kind of wrapping it up, a $38,000 change order. If you have any questions on the details involved in the scope here, Steve Abbott is here to answer those.
Any questions for Steve in regards to this change order? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Very good. The resolution passes. Resolution number 29852.
Yes, Commissioner, this is a change order with Leith & Sons, doing a lot of concrete work around the city. There again goes back into October of 2011, the contract started. This is change order number 4. The largest share of this is for new pavement around the Nichols Fountain. I think you might have seen a photograph in the picture in the paper the other day about this. And when it's all said and done, the new sidewalks will be there, and also the Mill Creek Fitness Trail Association is donating new benches at that location also. Recommend approval of the change order. If you have any questions, Steve can answer those.
All right, any questions of Steve in regards to this change order? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Resolution passes. Next resolution, number 29853. Are we including in that the soccer goals into this?
We can do that.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah.
Make sure that we're.
Well, I think it's a part of the 10, because that was for uniforms too.
Yeah.
We'll get a number and put it in.
Yeah, it'd be nice to sort of recognize it.
Sure.
In the minutes. Going forward, is there a motion to approve the acceptance of the gifts and contributions?
So moved.
All right, motion
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Very good. The resolution passes. Director's reports.
Yes, major construction. Steve? I think
I'd like to start out by giving you a construction update on the Liberty Memorial site improvements. I have a information sheet that Jimmy Lawson prepared. Steve, did you get one? Okay. Okay, what we're looking at here are the main topics that are being performed at Liberty Memorial. The bolded heading titles, Main Street, Kessler Road, Memorial Drive, and so on. Has the subcategories of what's being done, what's been completed, and what is to completed and when. Chance to absorb that?
It's quite a bit. Does this sort of leave us remaining on time to sort of complete projects on this sort of, I mean, is this in line with the sort of time frame that?
Yeah,
commission-
this
okay.
is, yes.
Okay.
We are working to be finished mid-July. The majority of the work. We're trying to get this done mid-July.
Okay.
The majority of the work that's going to be up in front of the entrance to the museum should be complete. We're hoping before the All-Star game in July. But the only thing that's going to be left to do is some work on Main Street and the General's Wall, which is down across from Union Station.
Yeah.
So.
There were some challenges there, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's right.
It was in more disrepair than we thought it was, so we were able to get into it and fix it.
Oh, great. Thank you for the detail, the amount of information. It's a lot of work.
Next, I want to talk about the Penn Valley Drive traffic improvements, and Jimmy has a map. that will help.
Yes. One last question on Liberty Memorial. Would you remind me the cost, the total project cost of the estimate?
It is around, it's around 3.6.
That's what I was thinking, 4 million. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then Penn Valley was around 3.5.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, the northbound lanes on Penn Valley Drive between 27th and 31st Streets will be closed beginning today, so it's probably closed right now. Southbound lanes will be closed starting
Glad
tomorrow.
we're here. There you go.
So don't go that way.
Yeah, don't go that way. Fahey Construction is the general contractor. We've worked with them before. They built Briarcliff Parkway for us and did a really good job. The alternative routes in the press release is Main Street and/or Southwest Traffic Lane. It's about a $3.5 million project. Will improve the safety and appearance of Penn Valley Drive by adjusting the alignment. If you look at this map, if you can see it from here, the red lines, mark on Jimmy's map, the red lines are the existing curves. What this alignment is going to do is relax that radius. So it's not as sharp a turn or a curve. This is a classic reverse curve, which can get kind of tricky for the traffic public. The source of the funding is from IAC, general obligation bonds, and the Southtown TIF. The project includes new curbs, gutters, storm drainage, streetscaping, and improvements to Penn Valley Lake. There was an island in the middle of the lake that was kind of unsightly. That's being or has been removed.
it's gone.
It's gone.
Yes.
The sidewalks around the lake will make it a very nice amenity. New curbs, gutters, sidewalks will be added to 29th Street. Both 29th Street and Kessler Drive will be repaved as well as part of this project. The west side of Penn Valley Drive will be reopened in early July and will accommodate one lane for each traveling direction. The anticipated completion for the total cross-section alignment is mid-August of this year, pending favorable weather. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions, Stephen?
Is there any access to just off Broadway at this
Yes.
point?
Yes. Right now, just off Broadway is probably the most signed building in town for this construction project. We've been making sure that they can continue to operate. So the access point also is Penn Drive, the road west of the lake. That has been reopened during this closure of Penn Valley Drive.
Okay.
So.
Which is great.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Heidi, marketing report?
Good afternoon. Well, as you know, we are in our busy season. We've had a really busy couple of weeks, kind of with the opening of the bay there. There's some little goodies and giveaways that we had at the VIP opening on, gosh, right before Memorial Day weekend, wasn't it? Seems like it was so long ago.
It was the 25th of May.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it was the 25th of May.
It was, yes. And since that time, this past weekend in general, the first weekend of June is very busy for us, and we had a lot going on, and I know that a lot of you made it around to some of the events. We had National Trails Day, where we dedicated the Blue River Trail, and that was a fun event, of course, a beautiful day. We got to walk a little bit on the trail and enjoy that with some of the other community leaders. We also have Hospital Hill on that day, which, you know, kind of takes over the middle of the city, but that's a big run. Then we had the Cancer Survivors Day also, and Rose Day on Sunday at Luce Park. And then throughout the weekend, we had the huge disc golf tournament in town, which took place, I think, at all of our disc golf courses. And the finals took place over here at Swope, and it was televised on the internet, internationally, and so Steve Lampone represented us well, talking all about our courses. They said a lot of good things about us, presented us with awards, and they're really grateful and very impressed with the courses that we have here in the city for disc golf. So, not slowing down at all. This weekend we have the Dragon Boat Races and Festival on Brush Creek, and as you know, the Kansas City Parks Blazing Paddles Dragon Boat Racing team will be defending its championship from last year. So please come out, and I know the president here is going to be participating on the boat. There's still some open seats if you other two might want to join us.
Would our new attorney be able to participate in that team?
Do you want to? You may just want to come out and root us on this first year, just kind of get a feel, lay of the land. Absolutely no. We would encourage everyone to come out and cheer us on. This year we do have a team coming in from Xi'an, China, to actually do some racing, which is going to be, I don't know, it'll be much of a race for them. But it sure will be for us. And the mayor is going to have a team that is going to race against them, so that's going to be kind of fun. But that is this Saturday. Races begin around 10 o'clock. The festival begins around the 9:30. And then also on that afternoon, we have the...
I just told him to throw it.
Yeah.
To throw it? That'll be our story. That afternoon we have the tip-off for the Mayor's Night Hoops program, and that is at Southeast Community Center, and that's at 3 o'clock. And then on this Sunday, I guess, we have the first Heartland Heat Triathlon, which is taking place up north in the Tiffany Springs, Tiffany Hills, in the Aquatic Center. And we have about 100 people signed up for that, which is pretty good considering it's a triathlon, which is so specialized, and it's a first-time event. So a couple of big weeks coming on, and it goes on from there, but we've already had a long meeting, so I'll leave it at that.
How long does Mayor Night Hoops run for?
It runs till August 12th, I believe. It's mid-June to mid-August, and it'll be at
8 weeks, basically.
Yeah, 8 weeks. 4 of 3 community centers, and then at Central High School. But the kickoff only runs for 2 hours.
Tip-off.
Or tip-off, that's right. I get Mayor's Night Kicks kickoff and Mayor's Night Hoops tip-off.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, sweet potato planting project. There's a memo in there from Forrest. If you want to hear more about this, Forrest is here.
Of course you want to hear Forrest talk about sweet potato.
Want to hear about sweet potatoes? They're really good to eat. No, yeah, we've entered into an MOU. Mark, I believe you signed that today or yesterday with Reconciliation Services and Cultivate Kansas City to plant sweet potatoes in some of our parks and in some of our flower beds that we elected this year not to plant due to budgetary reasons. Basically, they'll plant them in sweet potatoes instead, so
That's great.
they will look really good.
Great alternative use.
Pardon me?
That's a great alternative use.
Yeah, I think so. And the proceeds from all of these potatoes will go to harvesters when they're done at the end of the year. Basically, they'll plant them starting this month. They'll harvest them in October.
That's fantastic. Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
National Register of Historic Places, we talked earlier, we'd sent out a RFQ earlier in the year. There's going to be interviews of 3 different teams that have submitted on this, scheduled for the afternoon of June 11th. Steve Lampone is heading up that selection process. I know Commissioner Dillingham is participating in that as well. And also we have representation from, I think Ann O'Hare is involved in it, and also Brad Wolf in the Landmarks Commission. So hopefully we'll have someone selected and come back with a recommendation on who to have do the work.
Great.
And the last item we have is our update on the grants report. Jennifer Jones-Lacey has been tracking this for us, and she has the latest information.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Being the last item on a very long agenda, I'm going to keep this incredibly short for you. I wanted to point out that we've applied for several grants. The first document that you have shows what we've applied for, what's still pending, and what has been denied. We also have a list of grants that are currently active. The newest is the Energy Works KC grant that we received for Brush Creek Community Center from Mid-America Regional Council. That is a $100,000 grant that is going to do some energy improvement upgrades where we hope to capture 15% energy savings on the building. So that'll be lighting upgrades, most likely, and upgrades to the HVAC. I also wanted to point out one other donation that we received. It's not on this list because it's not officially a grant, but we did receive a donation of 500 trees from the Forest Relief of Missouri. We partnered with the Heartland Tree Alliance to have volunteers plant these trees at various neighborhoods in the city. So that was something that we received, and that was just completely donated from that organization. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions at this time? Thank you. On to the public hearing. Of course, we have nobody signed up for that. We need to do a calendar review.
Yeah, glad to. Heidi's covered several of things on the calendar for the month of June. I might mention a couple other things. Platte County KC Park Partners, jumping ahead to the 13th, luncheon. Also, on the 14th, we're scheduled to appear before the City Council business session and give the council an update on youth programming. A couple of things you've heard today, the presentation by John and Nick related to the Night Kicks program, comments made earlier about the Night Hoops program, the kickoff on that. So those are two key parts of our summer youth programs. And as I believe the commissioners are aware, I've been working with the mayor's office, Roosevelt and Narrow, to develop some more youth programs. Most of that's kicking off the middle part of June, and that'll be at our community centers and a couple other locations throughout the city. And so all that's under the umbrella of youth activities and program throughout the remainder of the summer months, and we'll provide an update to the council at that time. And there again, that's at the City Council business session on the 14th. There's Liberty Memorial Building and Grounds Committee meeting also on the 14th. I'm back here for a board meeting. Now, our new location will be Northland Neighborhoods. This is our first board meeting outside this building. I know Commissioner Gromowski had made that suggestion. We're going to follow through on that. So that's up at NNI on Vivian Road. And that'll be on the 19th. And I think we'll start the workshop at 1 o'clock. Is that right, Carmen? Okay. And then there's a City of Fountain Foundation board meeting on the 20th and a Friends of the Zoo board meeting on the 20th also. And Starlight on the 26th. Also on the City Council business session, the 28th, the presentation you saw earlier on downtown green space by the Kansas City Design Center, they're going to provide that same presentation to the City Council. That is being shepherded by Councilwoman Jan Markison. We provided the initial funding to get that all started, and so she wanted to get that before in front of the City Council also. And that's gets us through the month of June.
Great. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's at least one item that we need to talk about in the executive session. Is that now, or do we need to?
I think, am I right, Chad?
Oh, it's postponed? Okay, great.
Yeah, that's correct. The attorney, yeah, the attorney who's handling that wasn't able to be here today.
Understood. Just wanted to make sure there was, we didn't need to sort of handle that.
Yeah, so I think if things work out, we could do that on the 19th.
Yes.
Thanks for asking.
Sure, just wanted to make sure. Okay, with that, meeting adjourned.